Love your smile. All right. So we are live. Hello, everyone. You are tuning into Chai Together. I am your host and founder, Pratibha Day. You are tuning in for your cup of chai, courage, hope, and imagination today. So we use courage to showcase the stories on this platform. We use hope to overcome, and we use imagination to resonate and understand with the stories that are being shared. So with that being said, I would like to welcome Miss Madison Mays. She is our youngest guest thus far, however, the most wise possibly. Wise nonetheless. Okay, so let's be fair. And yeah, how are you feeling, Madison?
I'm feeling pretty good today.
Yeah.
I have a lot of work to do with school, but
Mhm.
other than that, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I love
Mhm.
it. What grade are you in?
I'm a junior.
Ooh. So is prom and all of that coming up now?
It would be, but it was canceled because
Oh,
of
it's
COVID.
canceled. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. How do you feel about it?
Um, I never really liked school dances, but I went anyway because my mom told me I would regret it if I didn't go.
Oh, yeah.
So, um, I don't really feel one way or another about it.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm really grateful to have you here finally. And
Yeah, thank you for having
yeah, this is going to be amazing. You're so cool.
me. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in. So with that being said, I'm going to share a bit about Madison and why she's here today with us on Chai Together. So Madison is 17 years old, pardon, and she is a high school junior who lost her dad 3 years ago to a rare and aggressive blood cancer. And through her grief journey, she's endured social alienation from other teens who didn't understand or feel comfortable with her grief. Not only did she lose friends, she was also subjected to socially aggressive behavior by her peers, but also the adults in her life who she needed, and they didn't show up in supportive ways for her either. She's now rebuilt her life for purpose and meaning by speaking out on a teen's perspective of grief. So, with that being said, that is why she is here. So, where would you like to start, Madison?
I can start at the very beginning.
Awesome.
I was 12. I think I was
Mm-hmm.
12 or 13 when he was diagnosed with cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know how to react. I was just devastated. I just remember breaking down and crying, and I was like, I don't want to go to school today. Please don't let me go to school today. I remember that was my first words that I said, that I didn't want to go to school. And I just spent the entire day with my dad because I didn't know like how to react.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's a lot of information for a 12, 13-year-old to hear,
Yeah.
especially about one of their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I was confused, I was scared, I was just feeling so many emotions at the same time, and also that scared me because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what I was feeling. It was just it was mentally stressful for me, but also, obviously for my family, because that's something that we never thought we would go through.
Yeah. So, when you were in school, so when is it that you went back to school after the news about your dad?
I think it was the next day. Going to school for me was actually kind of an escape. It was something I kind of realized that I
Mm-hmm.
could just kind of escape from everything. Um, so I remember after that day he was diagnosed and I went to school, I kind of realized that, hey, this kind of distracts me from everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And from that day forward, like even if something like crazy happened with him, I would still go to school. And because it distracted me, because I had friends who were there at that time who were like, they didn't understand, but they stood by me, kind of
Mm-hmm.
ish, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
um and it was just a distraction for me. And that's just yeah, that's kind of like what happened with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool. So was it easier for you then to be in school because you're not in his presence and physically seeing him deplete, possibly? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Mm.
I kept myself busy. I remember I was taking like a lot of dance classes because I used to dance a lot. I took a
Mm.
lot of dance classes, and I did a lot of school. In the time I was in eighth, no, I was in seventh grade. I think I was in
Mhm.
seventh grade to eighth grade when he was dying. Um, and I was in eighth grade when he died. And so obviously it wasn't as much school as like high school, but I kind of realized at that time that if I didn't have to see him, you know, dying in front of me, like
Mhm.
it was better for me. And I'm
Yeah.
actually really surprised how I kind of figured that out. Because I don't think I would think of that today. Honestly, I don't think I would think of that today.
Before we go on, I would just like to say how brave you are. It is a very sensitive, emotional topic, and then it's okay to like pause and like have a gulp in your throat. I'm 28, and when I share my story, I'm able to now at the age of 28. You are 17 years young, and like you're talking about this, and it's like you have the same mindset, understanding, and pain as an adult would. And regardless of the age, it doesn't matter because pain is pain. And it's just fascinating to me to have you on here today to see that you're sharing what I share now, like having a voice and talking about hard topics that are uncomfortable for other people and possibly for you. And I wasn't able to speak on it like you are, at your age. I don't know how you feel about that when people mention, your age. It's just because you'll possibly only know and understand as you get older,
Mhm.
uh, that wow, like you're gonna say, I'm so proud of myself because I was doing something that most people don't even have the courage to do their whole life. And yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to say to you. And regarding your dad, like when you found out about his cancer, what was it in fourth stage already?
I think so. I think it was actually.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I think my mom told me that it was stage 4, and
Mhm.
I didn't know much about cancer, but I just knew that was bad.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was really hard for me to hear, and it was
Yeah.
just a really hard time. I think, and I don't think it really hit me. I think I just heard the word cancer and it kind of just went in one ear and out the other, but I kind of
Mhm.
understood that, what was happening was bad.
Yeah. Did they ever mention anything about cancer in school or like
Yeah.
generally from TV and stuff? Is that what it was?
Yeah, they did talk about cancer in school.
Yeah.
We kind of, I remember at the time,
Mhm.
the next year, my 8th grade year, it wasn't biology, but like we were learning about biology.
Mhm.
It was just science. And I remember we were talking about like how cancer forms and like the different
Mm.
ways cancer can form.
Mhm.
And so that was kind of all of my understanding of it, just like the way like how it forms,
Mhm.
which literally just genetic mutations, but it's stuff like that.
Yeah. So before we continue on to more of like, the journey of your story, I want to ask you where, in the moment that you are in now, what has this inspired you to become and want to do, in the world from experiencing this? How do you feel?
How do I feel? Like
Mhm.
experiencing this and like how I feel now.
Yeah, like does it make you want to pursue to become something or do something bigger and greater because of what you experienced, as a teen for
Yeah,
other teens? Yeah.
yeah, kind of. After my dad died, it kind of made me realize that life isn't really fair. And
Mhm.
because obviously at a young age, you want to believe that, good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. But
Yeah.
it made me realize that, bad things happen to good people.
Mhm.
And so that kind of led me down a train of being very politically inclined. I
Mhm.
um, began to be really deep into politics, and I
Mhm.
went to be either a social justice lawyer or a criminal justice lawyer.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's where I was hinting it at. Like did it change, impact, influence your career decision because of what you
Mhm.
went through?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So let's talk more about the time, when you were going to school while doing this. Did your grades fluctuate as well regarding your dad?
When I was grieving, it did.
Mhm.
When I was going through grief, it definitely impacted my grades. I also didn't have a very good math teacher, I remember. Um, and obviously, with grief and, not having a good teacher, it led my grades to kind of drop a little bit.
Mm.
And um, I got a D in the math class that year, and I've never gotten a D before, like ever. Like not even on
Mhm.
like midterms, I've never gotten a D.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was specifically. I'm sure it was a mix of the not good teaching and the grief, but
Yeah.
it was yeah. But when I was like when he was sick, actually my grades did a lot better because I was more focused on
Mhm.
school. I got I think mostly A's actually. I don't think I got any like C's or anything like that. I think I was all A's and B's um in eighth grade. Specific. I can't talk today. Specifically.
It's okay. It's cool. Be yourself. Take your time. So someone commented. They said they love the way you can articulate your feelings now. Tia said this. Thanks, Tia. And they said most people take years to figure it out before they can tell their story. This is exactly what I was telling you, Madison. That we're older, and Tia's even older than I am. And the fact that you're doing this already, that means that you're gonna do even bigger things as you go on. So I'm just happy for you. Like, I'm just happy
Thank
to talk
you.
to you because it's different stages and different ages. And um, now I want to talk about, is there anyone, during this time period, how long does this time period last for you in school? Since finding out about your dad with cancer, and then when did your dad pass? Like, how long was that time span?
Hmm. A year and a couple months. He was
Oh, okay.
diagnosed in September of 2015? No,
Mm-hmm.
2016.
Mm,
2016. And he died in December of 2017.
yeah. So that went really fast. So during this time, did you have counseling at school? Was there someone at school, like a specific teacher that was always there? Did you have that support?
I had a counselor who would
Mhm,
always like bring me in and try to talk to me. There was also a grief group that I was in school,
mhm,
where all these kids would talk about, if they lost parents and if they're currently losing parents. And my counselor put me in this group. I was also in a group kind of like this in ninth
mhm.
grade. Um, and it was just a bunch of kids kind of talking about their grief story and how like they deal with grief. Looking back on it, it was kind of weird, just because I don't know, it was kind of uncomfortable specifically for me because
Yeah,
at the time I wasn't very open to talking about it. And there were many times I just kind of broke down crying because, it was kind of off for me to talk about. But I know I did have a counselor who was there for me, and she would always call me in, make sure I was doing okay, and just stuff like that.
did you find the group to be helpful or no?
No, uh,
No.
no,
Yeah.
it was more uncomfortable than
Mm,
than anything because it was there were classmates and that like people I had classes with in that
mm,
group, and I wasn't super open to talking about it because I was still healing and I wanted to keep
yeah.
kind of that part of my life private, and obviously
Mhm,
school was a place for me to escape, and
mhm.
so the idea of me just talking about it in school just
Yeah,
was.
you needed something more one-on-one, like personal counseling, not where your business is on blast, right? Is that
Mhm.
what the feeling? So,
Yeah, at the time,
mm,
I didn't kind of realize that. Uh,
yeah,
Um, at the time, I just kind of went because I could, or I technically was supposed to. Um, I wasn't technically supposed to. I just did. Um,
yeah.
at the time, I just didn't really realize it, but like looking back on it, it didn't really help.
Possibly, when it comes to heavy topics, something like that you were going through, you don't always want to talk about it or hear about it. You want to escape from that, just like you said.
Mhm.
Someone just said, keep it up. Thanks, Pastor Terry. And, um, now you have healthier boundaries that if that was you now, you would say, no, thank you. I'd rather grieve on my own. Is that how you feel now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. They
Um,
need that space.
mhm.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time by myself actually.
Aw.
Um,
Mm.
well, I chose to be by myself.
Yeah.
That was
You
the thing.
like being alone,
I
alone
love.
time.
I'm an
Yeah.
introvert. I love being alone.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in my room, just kind of
Yeah.
sitting down and
Yes.
processing what I was feeling, and
Mhm.
it was. I don't know how to describe what that was because I just kind of like zoned out and just kind of processed what I was feeling. And it was scary, being 14, 15, going through that. It wasn't it wasn't fun.
I love it. I love it. And I don't know if you follow spirituality or do you know of Sadhguru?
I
Do you
don't.
know him? You should YouTube him. Really good teachings, regardless of age or anything like that. Just even kids who do meditation and yoga. But he talks about stillness and just not doing anything, like just being in the moment. And yeah, separating yourself and processing is very important. And now I want to talk a bit about, you losing your friends at that time. So was this your tribe that you had and then, they outgrew you because of what you were going through at the time?
I think it was a situation of I was too sad
Yeah.
to hang out with them.
Yeah.
Specifically with this one person, they had kind of had like a thing for being happy,
Yeah.
and but these were friends that I've had for years, many,
Mhm.
many years. And it was, obviously it sucked having them leave.
Mhm.
But the more I think about it, the more it was probably better for me because I've talked to people and turns out they're not super great today. Um, but yeah, it was more of that they, I guess, didn't want to be around me and that energy I was giving off from
Mhm.
being so sad. Then just kind of they outgrew me.
Yeah. I like what you said, and that happens. I know it happened with me. I shared a bit with you about when I was young, that age, and no one can really understand what you're going through, especially being them being that age and not having experienced that themselves. They're not able to relate. So it is difficult to find someone. So is there anyone that you did find, like, to lean on or to confide in?
Yeah, I had these two friends. We're actually going to be me and those two friends are actually going to be recording a podcast on my mom's podcast.
Wow.
Um, yeah, where they were like, I don't understand what you're going through, but I'll support you. I'll support you through whatever
Mm.
you're going through. And they were just I just kind of like I would talk to them about, like what was going on, and they just sat and listened. Like they didn't like try to like invalidate my feelings or like ask questions. They just kind of listened. And that was something I needed at that time because I felt like I didn't have anyone who actually listened to me, just kind of pushed me aside.
Mm.
And yeah, it was just I felt like they just kind of like not didn't care, but didn't want me to talk about it because it kind of brought the energy in the room down.
Yeah.
But um they were willing to listen to me, and that was something that I really needed at that time.
It's beautiful. Carrie said, listening is a key component to compassion. Hi, Carrie. Thanks for tuning in. And Tia said, awesome having friends who can actively listen. Yeah. So, at this time, did you see a professional therapist as well?
I had a grief counselor,
Mm.
and she would come into my school at times, like when I was going through grief, and kind of talk to me about like
Mhm.
how I was feeling and like what was going on. And then she moved, so then I got a professional therapist,
Yeah.
and it was better because it wasn't in school. It was actually
Mhm.
in a professional therapist setting. And um also something that I liked about that is it wasn't just about, my grief. I could also talk to her about like literally anything I wanted.
Yeah. Right?
and and I found myself healing a lot better when I talked to the professional therapist. Not that the grief counselor didn't help me out because she definitely did.
Yeah.
She kind of helped me understand like how to like that like what I'm feeling is normal, but even
Mhm.
at the time I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Um she 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 would always tell me that, what I'm feeling is normal and that you shouldn't feel like you're alone in this because there's so many people out there, and that really helped me. But when I talked to the professional therapist, it kind of felt like I was talking to one of those two friends who just to just listen to me.
Yes.
And I liked that a lot better because it felt more normal, if that makes sense. It felt like I was talking to a friend,
Yes.
less than someone who's trying to actually help me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I had the same experience, you know. Yeah. And Pastor Terry, I want to share with you, Pastor Terry said, you have a great future in you, girl. And I'm very proud of you for sharing that with us. You're a blessing from heaven.
Oh,
I can see it. You're amazing, Madison. I want
thank
to ask
you.
you, yeah, I want to ask you, what led to your podcast journey? Is it because your mom already had one?
That was part of it. But
Mhm.
another thing I wanted to kind of do is I didn't want teenagers or even adults to
Mm.
feel like how I did, because I know when I was going through grief, there were times I questioned if I was like psychopathic, because times in grief, grief is confusing. Grief is probably one of the most confusing things I've ever been through. And
Wow.
like when my dad died, I didn't cry right away, and I didn't know that was normal. I never thought that was normal, and I want to tell people that what you're feeling is normal, and you may feel like a psychopath, but you're not. It's normal. It's completely normal.
Yeah. You're just in the shock. I also am the same way. Don't
Hmm.
cry right away when it's such a big loss. It's traumatic. Your
Hmm.
body needs, your nervous system needs time to process it, and that's why it takes time. Oh, like what's happening? And then once the funeral, possibly all that is over, then it hits you like, oh, the person's actually gone.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, when is it, you actually started feeling better? Like, was it through more therapy and time?
It was time.
Mm.
I felt a lot better during the summer of 2019 is when I started
Love it.
feeling a lot better.
Wow.
Um, that were times like that I could feel like actually happy, because for such a
Mm.
long time, it could also be because it was winter and
Yeah.
um, but I just kind of felt like at times I couldn't be happy, and when I got to the summer, I was like happy, and it was one of those things where it was like, I'll miss you every day, but I'll miss you less and less. No, that's not.
It's okay.
um, I'll miss you less and less, but
Yeah.
like, it's not something I think about, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that's constantly on my mind.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there are times that I'll miss you, but it's not gonna be that pain that you're gone is gonna slowly turn into, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's gonna slowly, I wouldn't say heal,
Mhm.
because you're never gonna get over that loss,
Yeah.
but it's gonna, I guess, numb a little bit, if that
Mm.
if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
gonna dissipate, as in, it doesn't need to be the number one priority because you're moving on with your life.
Mhm.
It's, you love your dad, you'll have your, anniversaries yearly, possibly, thinking of him, all of that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you have to stay in that pain. Your body, if your body was always staying in that pain, you would always be in having like PTSD and anxiety,
Mhm.
because it's the forefront of your day. But it's very healthy for you to know that. And it's very healthy for you to know that grief is confusing. You said such a strong statement, and your understanding of grief is possibly more than other people can even have, where you experience that at the age that you have. And um, it's just really wonderful. And someone called you a young queen.
Thank you.
I, so yeah, I want to ask you this. I want to ask you, where this is something you can think about too. You don't have to rush to answer it, but if you were to talk to your dad today, how what would he say to you about what you're doing now? What do you think?
Oh, he would definitely be proud of me. That's my dad.
Yeah.
Always wanted me to do something good with my life. He always
Wow.
pushed me to do well in school, and I got into NHS.
Oh,
Um,
wow, congrats.
Thank you. Um,
That's National Honor Society, right?
yes.
Yeah, for those who don't know. Yeah.
Um, and I'm taking AP classes. I'm doing
What?
yeah, I'm doing well
You
in those.
got
And
it. Yeah.
he always pushed me to do well in school. He always pushed me to he always wanted me to do something good with my life. And I just know he would be proud of me.
Yeah, you are really very strong. You possibly heard this many times, but you and I did the same, regardless of our ages. That, after I experienced the loss that I had, that it gave me drive to be successful. It gave me strength and discipline, just like it did for you. It took you time. So I want to ask you, how long did it take for you to actually do your first podcast appearance?
This summer,
Wow.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
the first time, uh, I think it was with my mom actually.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first ever podcast, and she was like, "Oh, I'm put something on LinkedIn where other people can hear your story." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't really want to do
Wow.
that." And I was like, "I don't really want to do that, but okay." But I don't regret it for a second. I really enjoy doing this, and I think as I want people to understand that what they're feeling is normal. Like I said before.
Wow. Do you want to create your own brand, Madison?
As of right now, I do not,
Mm-hmm.
but that could change with time.
Yeah. And yeah, I believe with time that um, it's still going to take more time because it still is very fresh. I was going to say it another word, but the wound is still open, something that takes time, and no one can tell you how long it's going to take. That's just for you. And, is there anything else that you would like to share today with the viewers listening, or, to other teens who grieve? I would love it. Yeah.
The way you feel, um, it's completely normal. Don't expect to cry right away. If your mom tells you that, or any of your parents
Yeah.
tell you that that this family member has like a certain amount of time to live and it doesn't phase you, don't kill yourself over that, because that's normal. And whatever you feel is completely normal. Everything you're feeling is valid, and you are valid in your feelings, and don't let people convince you otherwise of that. If you are a friend of someone who is grieving, just listen. Grief isn't something that goes away with time. That feeling of loss doesn't ever just go away. You will miss you will miss that person for the rest of your life, and until you actually go through that, that's something that you probably can't fathom. But you just have to sit there and listen and be there for them. And if you feel like you can't, then just how do I word this? If you feel like you can't be there for that person, then maybe you shouldn't be their friend. But just kind of, if you are a friend of someone, just listen. Listening helps a lot more than you think. And
Yeah.
that person needs a friend right now more than they need anything.
I really like what you said. And someone said that's really good advice, and it's so inspiring. You truly are very inspiring. And yeah, someone said they're proud of you for sharing
Oh,
many
thank
ways.
you.
Yeah. And, another question comes to mind, as you speak about your story multiple times on different platforms, is it ever times where you don't want to talk about it, or, where you feel that you're outgrowing it, or is that not happened yet?
Not really happened.
Okay.
I'm very open about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
you don't feel, yeah, go ahead.
I don't really feel as if like there's any time I'm not open to talking about it, because I my goal with this is to help people,
Yeah, wow.
and like if anyone's like, because like the more information I can give out, the more I could possibly help somebody, and that is just kind of what I want to do with this.
You have a brilliant mindset, because I go through that myself, when I speak about my story on different platforms. And there's times where, I don't want to talk about a topic that is difficult to talk about. But then I remind myself that that's why I do what I do. We have to talk about the hard things so our message gets out there. So that's a great reminder. And thank you for being on Try Together. And you really are a
Yeah,
blessing, and
thank
you already
you.
are impacting many lives, but you have a greater purpose now, from my perspective, that there's so much out there for you to do. And this is just the beginning. Yeah. So
Thank you. Thank
thank
you
you
for
so
having
much.
me. Yeah.
Someone's watching you from Uganda. They said, God
Oh.
bless you abundantly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this is wonderful. All right. You have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.